This week we go over bond valuation, and in this particular video I just kind of want to go through the steps involved in utilizing the BA in determining the price of a bond. As you can see up here, we have a bond, we'll say a corporate bond, par value of 1,000. It has a coupon of 3%, and it has a yield to maturity of 4%, and we want to determine the price. And let's just assume the bond matures, let's say in 10 years. Now let me say one or two things about this before we get into the actual calculations on the business analyst. You can see we have a coupon rate of 3%, and we have a yield to maturity of 4%. We have a difference. So one thing that we have to understand when we talk about bonds is that when this bond was issued, it was issued with a coupon of 3%. Now let me make one further statement in regard to that. When this bond was issued, somebody paid $1,000 to receive 3% per year, and at the time of the issuance of this bond, the coupon of 3% was the same as its yield to maturity. Or I guess I should say the yield to maturity was the same as the coupon. So whenever you have a situation where you know what the coupon rate is, and it happens to be the same as the yield to maturity, the price of the bond will always be $1,000. Let me repeat that. If the yield to maturity is the same as the coupon on a bond, the bond will have a price of $1,000. Like in this example, the bond was issued for $1,000. The coupon was 3%. If its yield to maturity was 3%, the price of the bond would be $1,000. You would not have to calculate the price. You know that. One other thing, when we look at the coupon and the yield to maturity. In this case, if you would have bought the bond when it was issued, you'd be getting $30 a year. Well, since bonds pay interest every 6 months, you'd be getting $15 each and every 6-month period. Well, you'd get that for the next 10 years, right? 10 years. $30 a year for 10 years. Now let's assume that today interest rates have gone up. Well, let's assume interest rates go to 4%. Now what's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen to that bond that you bought that has a coupon of 3%? Would anybody give you $1,000 for that bond? No, and the reason being is I can take $1,000 and I can go into the marketplace and I can buy a bond that has a coupon of 4% and get $40 a year. So if you had to sell your $1,000 bond that has a coupon of 3% today when interest rates are 4%, you're going to get something less than $1,000. So what's going to happen is that bond will go from $1,000 to something less than $1,000. It will go to something less. How much less? Until it equates to a yield to maturity of 4%. And that's what we're going to take into account when we determine the price. So, as I've already pointed out, if the coupon rate and the yield to maturity happens to be the same, you know the price of the bond is going to be $1,000. Now, if the yield to maturity as in this case, 4% is greater than the coupon rate, 3%, you know that that bond in the marketplace today will sell at a discount, something less than $1,000. Or if the yield to maturity happens to be less than the coupon, the price of the bond in the marketplace will be something greater than 1,000. We would refer to that as a premium bond. So, yield to maturity greater than the coupon, discount bond, less than 1,000. If the yield to maturity is less than the coupon, something more than 1,000, or we would refer to that as a premium bond. Okay, let's get to the task at hand, and let's just kind of look at how we would use the TIBA to determine the price. Pretty simple. Pretty much what we focused on last week in regard to time value of money. This really is a time value of money. Let's take it into account an annuity stream, because we're going to receive so much money each year, and at the same time it's going to give us a future value of $1,000. We want to calculate the present value of that. So the price of a bond is nothing more than the present value of an annuity stream plus the present value of receiving $1,000 when the bond matures. So let's get to the task at hand. I pointed out all the problems that we will do dealing with bond valuation. We will assume semi-annual. If there's a problem in the text that does not make reference, but is making reference to a yearly payout, forget that. We will always use semi-annual compounding every 6 months. So therefore, we would want to change second payment per year. Right now, I have it set up for 12, and I have to change that to semi-annual compounding to 2, and enter it. So now the analyst knows that I'm dealing with a problem whereby the interest is compounded semi-annually. So I want to go ahead and just clear it out, get back to my cell, you might say, and now I'm ready to put the information in. Okay, so as I said, how do we determine the price of a bond? What really is it? It's nothing more than the present value of a future value plus the present value of an annuity stream. So I know that at the end of 10 years, I'm going to get $1,000 back. So that $1,000 will be a future value. I know the bond's going to mature in 10 years. 10 years. Okay. How many periods? Well, semi-annual. Okay, that's going to be 20 periods. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and put 20 in. Now, okay, I got my future value, right, that $1,000. Now I'm going to have to come up with determining the present value of the annuity. Okay, I'm getting 3% times 1,000 is $30. But I'm going to get that I'm not going to get $30. I'm going to get half of that every 6 months. So that's going to be $15. And that's going to be payment. If you recall from last week, when we dealt with time value of money, when we had an annuity problem, when we're dealing with an annuity stream, that stream always goes into payment. If we're dealing with a single sum, that always goes in, or did go into, present value. So, what have I done so far? Well, I put in my future value. I'm going to get $1,000, 10 years, well, or I should say in 20 periods from now, right? What's my interest rate? 4%. So 4% will be my interest per year. So 4% is my interest per year. Let me stop and say this. When we price out a bond is priced to reflect its yield to maturity, right? Because if I had to go into the marketplace today to sell that $1,000 bond that has a coupon, I'm not going to get $1,000. I'm going to get something less because the current interest rate on this bond, if this company was going to have to go ahead and issue this bond today, it would have to pay 4%. So bonds are priced out to reflect its yield to maturity. Okay, I've already put that in. So now all that we have to do is compute present value. And the present value of my bond, as you can see, is $918.24. Ignore the negative sign. When I put in my payment, if you recall, of $15, I could have put in a minus sign. It would have turned around in my present value to be positive. So if you see a negative sign, ignore that. It's $918. That's what the price of the bond. If you owned the bond and had to sell it today, you would have to pay $918. So when you stop and think of it, right? If you sell that bond to somebody else, that somebody else is going to receive $30 a year, we'll say from the company, right? $30 a year from the company for the next 10 years. And that difference, we have to make up a difference. That difference here, say of approximately about $82, or say $8 and change, each year for the next 10 years is going to come from you to make up the difference between 3% and that 4%. So in effect what's happening is that you're giving, when you sell it, you're giving that new bondholder 1%. And the company, of course, is obligated to give 3%. So that's why, again, the price of the bond would be $918.24. So hopefully the video helps. Once again, utilizing how to come up with the price of a bond with the information that I have given. And you will have a bond valuation problem to calculate this week. So again, hopefully this will be helpful in going over this particular learning goal.